One of the most powerful people in the world of finance just made a huge statement about the future of Social Security that totally caught my attention. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, says that Social Security isn't broken. In fact, he said it's one of the most successful anti-poverty programs ever created. But he also says it has one major, huge flaw. It helps millions of Americans survive retirement, but it doesn't help them build wealth. And that's a very different conversation than the one most people are having. Welcome to the Unretired, where you're not done, but you're finally doing what you want. Whether you're building your retirement plan or already living it, this channel is about helping you rethink, reshape, and reimagine your next chapter, not by chance, but by choice. So today, I want to walk you through what Larry Fink, the CEO of Blackstone, actually said and why it's creating so much discussion and debate, what his proposed solution is, and why some experts strongly disagree with him. And finally, I'll give you my own take on what retirees and future retirees should really be paying attention to. As you know, we talk about Social Security all the time on this channel, so this is a really important one, because this isn't just a debate about Social Security, it's really a debate about what Social Security was designed to do. All right, let's start with something that often gets lost in these conversations. Larry Fink, CEO of Blackstone, he isn't arguing that Social Security has failed. Actually, he's saying quite the opposite. He points out that Social Security is one of the most effective anti-poverty programs ever created. Every month, more than 70 million Americans, including yours truly, receive benefits. According to census data, it keeps roughly 29 million people out of poverty every single year. And that's an incredible accomplishment, quite extraordinary if you think about it. So if you retired today, Social Security is probably one of the most dependable income streams that you have. The checks, they arrive every month, no matter what. They continue for life. They adjust for inflation, and for millions of retirees, they provide a minimum level of financial security that simply wouldn't exist otherwise. So let's be fair to the program, because a lot of people just bitch and moan about it, Social Security, and complain about it and say this, that, or the other thing about all the things that are wrong with it. Let's actually be fair to it and give it some credit. As a safety net, Social Security has been remarkably successful. But this is where Larry Fink also asks a different question. What if surviving retirement isn't the same as building wealth? Think about that for a second. And that's where his argument becomes really interesting. His point is that Social Security provides income stability, but it doesn't allow most Americans to participate in the long-term growth of the economy. Think about it this way. When you own stocks, whether it's through your IRA, a 401k, or a brokerage account, you benefit when American businesses grow and the economy grows. Corporate profits increase. Look, stock prices generally rise over long periods of time, and dividends are paid. Compounding actually does work. Well, Social Security doesn't operate that way. You're receiving a benefit, but you're not building an investment portfolio that compounds alongside of the economy and the growth that we've experienced the last multiple decades. And as Fink puts it, Social Security doesn't really grow with the country. And I think that's a really important distinction. He's not criticizing the monthly check. He's pointing out that the system wasn't designed to create wealth. So why is that? Well, it's because Social Security is fundamentally a pay-as-you-go system. Today's workers pay payroll taxes that help fund today's retirees. So if you're an employee, you pay 6.2% of your wages. Your employer pays another 6.2%. 12.4 total. If you're self-employed, you're going to pay that full 12.4% yourself. So when the system collects more money than it immediately needs, those excess funds don't get invested in a diversified portfolio. Instead, they're invested in special U.S. Treasury securities. Now, Treasury bonds have an important role to play. They're considered amongst the safest investments in the world, but safety usually comes with lower returns. And that's the heart of Fink's argument. While retirement investors have benefited over long periods from owning businesses through the stock market, Social Security's reserve assets have historically earned returns more comparable to government bonds. So he raises the question, Should a portion of Social Security's assets be invested differently? Notice what he's not proposing. He's not saying that every retiree should suddenly manage their own investment account. He's also not advocating taking the entire trust fund and putting it into the stock market. Instead, he's suggesting something closer to what many large pension funds already do, and have a diversified, professionally managed portfolio that includes equities alongside bonds. As an example, think about the federal government's thrift savings plan. Millions of federal employees invest through broadly diversified funds. They're not picking individual stocks, they're participating in long-term market growth while maintaining diversification. And that example is much closer to what Fink appears to have in his mind. Now, as you might imagine, not everybody agrees with this. In fact, this is where the debate gets really interesting. His critics, and critics of this thinking, argue that introducing market exposure, even partial market exposure, creates risk that Social Security was specifically designed to avoid. They point to one important fact. Social Security has continued paying benefits through recessions, market crashes, financial crises, even the Great Recession of 2008. Meanwhile, millions of 401k balances were cut dramatically during the same period. So opponents ask a very reasonable question. Do you really want retirees depending on the stock market for a program that's supposed to provide guaranteed income? And it's not an unreasonable concern. In fact, one of the strongest defenders of the current structure has argued that Social Security's reliability is precisely what makes it valuable. Stability has value, predictability has value, especially when you're talking about somebody who's 82 years old and depends on that monthly check to buy their groceries and pay the electric bill. Now, at the same time, others argue that doing nothing also carries risk. There are many proposals floating around, including some that would attempt to address Social Security's long-term funding challenges by creating a large, professionally managed investment fund that invests in both stocks and bonds. Supporters believe that higher long-term returns could help strengthen the system. On the other hand, critics argue that borrowing costs, market volatility, and political complications could outweigh the potential benefits by a lot. So, where does that leave us? Well, let me give you my opinion. This debate really isn't about whether stocks outperform bonds over the long periods. Historically, they've often done exactly that. The bigger question is philosophical. What do we want Social Security to be? Do we want it to remain exactly what it's always been, a dependable safety net designed to prevent poverty in retirement? Or do we want it to evolve into something else that also helps Americans participate in long-term wealth creation? Reasonable people can disagree. Personally, I think it's important not to confuse those two goals. The first goal is security. The second goal is wealth. They're related, but they're not the same thing. So here's a takeaway I hope every viewer remembers. No matter what Congress eventually decides, you should never expect Social Security to be your complete retirement plan. It's just one leg of the stool. Your personal savings matter, and your investment strategy matters, your withdrawal strategy matters, and tax planning matters a lot. Social Security is an incredible foundation, but it's just a foundation. The house has to be built on top of that foundation. And that's exactly why we spend so much time on this channel talking about Roth conversions, tax-efficient withdrawals, Social Security timing, Medicare planning, and building multiple sources of retirement income. Because the more flexibility you create for yourself, the less dependent you become on any single program or decision made by Washington. All right, before we wrap this up, I'd love to hear your opinion. Do you think Larry Fink has a point? Should a portion of Social Security eventually be reinvested like a pension fund to pursue higher long-term returns? Or do you believe it should preserve stability, even if it means lower returns? Is that a better path? Leave your opinion in the comments. I read every one of them, and these discussions are often just as valuable as these videos themselves. If you found this helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe to The Unretired, and don't forget to turn on notifications. We've got a lot more coming up on Social Security, retirement taxes, Medicare, and strategies to help you make smarter decisions with the money that you spent your life earning. Now, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. Social Security has never been designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to keep you from being poor. Whether that mission should expand, I think it's a debate that's worth having.